Hi, so today I'm going to be talking about what's happening in today's society. So, obviously, big subject is the police, like police forces, and the riots, protests, and other violence happening in on today's news, which is really overtaking a lot of other serious topics that need to be talked about. But as of right now, this is probably one of the more serious ones. So during this time in America, the world and worldwide, they are part they are all part of failing the people in their countries and how people are failing each other. So first we need to really look on how this all started. So on May 25th, 2020, George Floyd died to asphyxiation from a cop brutality situation. Floyd was accused of counterfeiting a fake $20 bill when he was buying cigarettes in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And within 20 minutes of the cops arriving, George Floyd was on the ground, and the police officer had pinned him down using his knee on the back of his neck. Floyd shouted out, "I can't breathe, I can't breathe." And the three other officers that were on the scene didn't do anything. One thing that should be noted about those officers is one was on his it's his first year working. He's a rookie cop. The second was on his fourth day, and the third one had been working for a while, but he had been cooperating with police, and he expressed that he did not want to stand up against that one police officer because they didn't want to lose their jobs. But again, they're probably going to lose their jobs now because of what is happening, because of how they handled the situation, and they could have handled it better. Not soon after Floyd's death, protesters started popping up all over the country, and if in one article that I had read, all 50 states had joined the protest along with several countries in Europe. I believe the UK and Italy are two of the big ones that have had protests about Black Lives Matter. At first, the protesting was fairly peaceful, but again quickly turned violent when looting and rioting started. Because of all of those things, cops are getting looked on poorly, and so is the movement. So the next thing we really need to look at is the involvement of protesters, cops, and bystanders. First, we should start with our protesters. There are 5,600 people that were arrested in the wake of George Floyd's death for varying crimes such as staying out past the curfews. Again, those were for safety reasons for the country, just so that people who were going to be doing wrong to their community were like vandalizing their community or lighting a building on fire were more easily to be retained versus the protesters who were being peaceful. Not saying not all of them were arrested as well. It just really just depended on their situation. And then the other two were violence and then blocking off highways, because a lot of people were blocking off major streets and violence towards the community of cops, like burning down a building, looting businesses. Well, we've all have seen that, but that is their way. They have the right to protest. Not condoning that personally, that looting and burning down buildings is the way to go, but they do have the right of freedom of speech. It is our First Amendment, so they have the right to say what they want. But when it comes to vandalism, that's when cops began getting a pretty bad rep again. Speaking of cops, we're moving on to cops. At least 21 cops have been injured, and the death count for cops is unconfirmed. At least from what I had read, I hadn't been able to find any confirmed kills because of rioters. The violence from the rioters range from being one officer shot in the head in Vegas, or bricks were thrown at officers in New York and Texas. Again, you're allowed to freedom of speech. is your right. But harming another human being because you disagree with what one cop did in a different community is wrong. A life for a life is not how we run the country. It's how at this point how many people are going to die because of police brutality or people rioting who aren't really following the cause. They're just doing what they want to do. As we move forward, we go on to bystanders. And bystander violence has also varied in many different ways. Both sides have attacked bystanders, whether it be a verbal attack or physically attacked. There had been several children who had been maced on the streets by protesters or tear gas in peaceful protests. One group of protesters blocked a street when a fireman, like a fire engine, was trying to get to a child in a burning building, and since they were blocked off, the child did end up passing, which, again, not a good situation overall. So bystanders are being affected in a physical way, but in a more verbal abusive way. People are attacking people's characters if they're not speaking up, which they have the right not to say anything. It's not because they don't want to say anything, they just don't want to be attacked for their opinion. But it's also wrong to say a lot of targeting towards white people has occurred. There have been several Facebook posts that I have personally seen saying white silence is equal to violence, which isn't true. Like, a lot of white people want to say something, but they feel they'll either be attacked by their own race or a different race for saying their opinion. So we have to let people say and do and speak in a way that they're willing to speak. It is their First Amendment right. You don't have the right to verbally abuse anyone or hit anyone or scream in anyone's face, just nothing, because they have a different opinion. Opinions are belong to the people who they're coming from. You don't have the right you have the right to argue. You have the right to say your opinion versus their opinion. You never have to agree with their opinion. You never don't have to agree with their opinion. But in the long run, people have the right to say what they want, even if you don't agree. But you don't get to belittle their character. You don't get to physically harm them because their opinion is slightly different than yours. And how we can make this better as a country and as a nation, we need to stop discriminating against people for their race, ethnicity, religion, sexual orientation, and political beliefs. No matter what, people will always acknowledge that they are a different color than they are, but it shouldn't be seen any differently than one person wearing a pair of tennis shoes versus a woman wearing high heels. It's just a pair of shoes. So why would we discriminate against people based off of their skin color if we're wearing different shoes, have a different political belief? You would want to be treated the way you want to be treated, but you still want to be able to feel like you have a voice. And because of all of the riots and protests and cop brutality, it's hard for anyone to have a true opinion without feeling like people are going to leave their lives because they disagree, or feel like they're going to be attacked based off of their own personal opinion or their personal beliefs. It's also unfair to speak poorly of others and just assuming because they are white, they are privileged, and nothing has ever gone wrong in their life. Just because someone is black does not mean they're a criminal. That does not mean they're an awful person. Just because someone is a cop, it doesn't mean that they joined the force to destroy a community or kill someone. Many cops join the force knowing how corrupt those systems can be because it is a job. People are elected into a lot of those positions, like sheriffs. They're elected positions, or it's just a job. But no matter what job anyone has, there's always going to be someone who's bad at their job and who is going to fail people through their job. There will be bad teachers, there will be bad doctors, there will be bad lawyers. And it's unfair and unjust to say that cops are pigs or whatever you'd want to call them, or that they're bad at their job. They're out there risking their lives every day. Yes, some cops are bad, but there are doctors who are bad who have killed people on operating tables or said that nothing was wrong with them when a person was seriously sick or injured. But at the end of the day, we need to trust people. We need to acknowledge that not everyone is good, but not everyone is bad. We need to be there and stand with each other as a country and as a nation in the world. All the nations need to come together and understand that people are human, people make mistakes, and people are allowed to have their own opinion. You might not agree with mine, and I might not agree with yours, but as a country, we just need to grow up and see people as people. We need to see people as they make mistakes. No one is perfect, but we're still human. And that's, at the end of the day, what should matter most. No one should die. No one should lose a family member. But right now, we need to move forward as a country instead of judging people off of our ancestors. Because a lot of people have discriminated against white people who disagree, saying that their ancestors were the oppressors. Well, I am not my ancestors. I don't know what my ancestors did. I know they came over on World War II, so they never oppressed anyone. They were oppressed in Europe. So they came over to the United States, to a better place. So we can't judge people off the past. We need to move forward. And that, at the end of the day, is what we need most. Thank you for listening to my rant. I will talk to you later. All right, bye.